One evening, a man and his wife are discussing what they think their son will be when he grows up. "I have an idea," says the father. With that, he puts a crisp $10 bill, a bottle of fine whiskey, and a Bible on the coffee table. If he takes the money, he'll be a banker. If he takes the whiskey, he'll be a drunk. And if he takes the Bible, that means he'll be a preacher. The man and his wife hide just before their son comes in the door. As they watch from where they're hiding, the boy goes over to the coffee table. First, he picks up the $10 bill, looks at it, and sets it down. Then he picks up the bottle of whiskey, uncorks it, sniffs it, and sets it down. Lastly, he picks up the Bible, leafs through it, and sets it down. Then, the boy takes the money and stuffs it into his pocket, grabs the whiskey, and walks off with the Bible under his arm. "Well, how do you like that?" exclaims the father. "He's going to be a politician!" A blonde and a brunette are spending their day off together at the local lake. Since they're alone, they decide to go skinny dipping and enjoy the beautiful weather. After frolicking around for 30 minutes or so, they decide they've had enough fun. Just as they emerge from the water, 2 buses pull up, parking right in front of them. Shock and horror, the buses were full of men from the local church which they both attended. With nowhere to hide and their clothes out of reach, the blonde tries desperately to cover her private parts, then dashes for cover. The brunette instead covers her face and runs after the blonde. As they get out of view, the blonde says,
"Gosh, how will you ever face those men in church now? You didn't even try to cover your womanhood."
To which the brunette responds,
"Well, I don't know about you, but those men only recognize me by my face."
A guy comes home completely drunk one night. He lurches through the door and is met by his scowling wife, who is most definitely not happy.
"Where the heck have you been all night?"
she demands. "At this new bar," he says. "It's called the Golden Saloon. Everything there is golden. It's got huge golden doors, a golden floor, and even the urinal's gold." The wife still doesn't believe his story. So the next day, she checks the phone book, finding a place across town called the Golden Saloon. She calls up the place to check her husband's story.
"Is this the Golden Saloon?"
she asks as the bartender answers the phone.
"Yes, it is,"
the bartender answers.
"Do you have huge golden doors?"
she asks.
"Sure do,"
the bartender replies.
"Do you have golden floors?"
she asks.
"Most certainly do,"
the bartender assures her.
"What about golden urinals?"
she queried skeptically. There's a long pause. Then the woman hears the bartender yelling,
"Hey, Duke, I think I got a lead on the guy that pissed in your saxophone last night."
A pilgrim was walking across a prairie when he came across a small town. Passing through the town, he noticed a saloon and decided to stop and quench his thirst. After ordering a beer, he stood at the bar and observed the other clientele in the saloon. Suddenly, the saloon doors swung open, and a cowboy came running in yelling, "Big Jake's a-comin'!" Within seconds, the establishment had cleared, leaving the pilgrim and his beer alone at the bar. Sure enough, a huge 7.5-foot tall, 500-pound cowboy came swaggering in, tearing out the front door frame with his broad shoulders. The cowboy looked around the saloon, marched over to the pilgrim, picked him up by the scruff of his neck, and threw him over the bar, bellowing,
"Give me a drink!"
The pilgrim complied, placing the almost full bottle next to a glass on the bar. The cowboy tossed back the drink, then bit the neck off the bottle and emptied that too. At that point, the pilgrim, shaking in his boots, asked, "Sir, would you care for another?" To which the cowboy replied,
"Nope, I gotta go. Big Jake's a-comin'."
3 old men were sitting on a park bench when a reporter approached them. "I wonder if you 3 would be willing to do an interview and tell me your secret to a long life," the reporter asked. The 3 old men agreed, and the reporter asked the first old man his secret to a long life.
"I never drank alcohol, I never smoked tobacco, and I have been married to the same woman for 50 years.
That's really remarkable, said the reporter. And how old are you?
I'm 93,
said the first old man. The second man was asked the same question on his secret to a long life.
I drank on occasion, I smoked, but not often, and I dated some.
And how old are you? asked the reporter.
I'm 91,
said the second man. Finally, the reporter approached the third old man and asked his secret to a long life.
I dated every woman that would go out with me. I drank until I passed out. And I smoked 3 packs of cigarettes a day.
Wow, said the reporter. And how old are you? The third man replied,
I just turned 29.
There was a trial in a small town in Texas. The prosecuting attorney called his first witness to the stand. She was a grandmotherly, elderly woman. He approached her and asked,
Mrs. Smith, do you know me?
She responded,
Why, yes. I do know you, Mr. Jones. I've known you since you was a young boy. And frankly, you've been a big disappointment to me. You lie, you cheat on your wife, you manipulate people and talk about them behind their backs. You think you're a rising big shot, but you haven't the brains to realize you never will amount to anything. Yes, I know you.
The lawyer was stunned. Not knowing what else to do, he pointed across the room and asked,
Mrs. Smith, do you know the defense attorney?
She again replied,
Why, yes, I do. I've known Mr. Clark since he was a youngster, too. I used to babysit him for his parents. And he, too, has been a real disappointment to me. He's lazy, and he has a drinking problem. The man can't build a normal relationship with anyone, and his law practice is one of the shoddiest in the entire state. Yes, I know him.
At this point, the judge banged his gavel to silence the courtroom, then called both counselors to the bench. In a very quiet voice, he said to them with menace, I will jail you for contempt if either of you asks her if she knows me. A priest, a doctor, and an engineer were waiting behind a particularly slow group of golfers one morning. The engineer, who was quite frustrated, said, This is absurd! We've had to wait here for 15 minutes! The doctor agreed. I don't know, but I've never seen such incompetence on the golf course. The priest said, Hey, here comes the groundskeeper. Let's go talk to him. Hey, George, what's going on with that group ahead of us? They're pretty slow, aren't they? The groundskeeper replied, Oh, yeah, that's the group of blind firemen. They lost their sight last year when they put out a fire in the local chemical warehouse. We always let them play for free. The three of them became very quiet. Then the pastor said, That's sad. I think I will pray for them tonight. The doctor adds, Good idea. I'll check with my buddy, the eye doctor. Maybe he can do something. The engineer shrugs. Why don't they just play at night? An old preacher was dying. He sent a message for 2 church members, a banker and a lawyer, to come to his home. When they arrived, they were ushered to his bedroom. As they entered the room, the preacher held out his hands, then motioned for them to sit on each side of the bed. The preacher grasped their hands, sighed contentedly, smiled, and stared at the ceiling. For a time, no one said anything. Both the banker and the lawyer were touched and flattered that the preacher would ask them to be with him during his final moments. However, they were also puzzled, as the preacher had never given them any indication that he particularly liked either one of them. They both remembered his many long, uncomfortable sermons about greed, covetousness, and avaricious behavior that made them squirm in their seats. Finally, the banker said, Preacher, why did you ask us to come? The old preacher mustered up his strength, then weakly said, I want to die as Jesus died. Between 2 thieves. A monkey is sitting in a tree smoking a joint when a lizard walks past. The lizard looks up and says, Hey, what are you doing? The monkey says, Smoking a joint. Come up and join me. So the lizard climbs up and sits next to the monkey, and they smoke another joint. After a while, the lizard says his mouth is dry and that he's going to get a drink from the river. At the riverbank, the lizard is so stoned that he leans over too far and falls in. A crocodile sees this and swims over to the stoned lizard, helping him to the side. He then asks the lizard, "What's the matter with you?" The lizard explains that he was up in the tree smoking a joint with the monkey and his mouth got dry, and that he was so wasted that when he went to get a drink from the river, he fell in. The inquisitive crocodile says he has to check this out. He walks into the jungle and finds the tree where the monkey is sitting, finishing a joint. He looks up and says, "Hey, monkey." The monkey looks down and says, "Dude, how much water did you drink, dude?" One day, after what seemed an eternity in the Garden of Eden, Adam called out to God, "Lord, I have a problem."
"What's the problem, Adam?"
God replied, "Lord, I know you created me and have provided for me and surrounded me with this beautiful garden and all these wonderful animals, but I'm just not happy."
"Oh, and why is that, Adam?"
came the reply from the heavens. "Lord, I know you created this place for me with all this lovely food and all the beautiful animals, but I'm lonely."
"Well, Adam, in that case I have the perfect solution. I shall create a woman for you."
"What's a woman, Lord?"
"This woman will be the most intelligent, sensitive, caring, and beautiful creature I have ever created. She will be so intelligent that she can figure out what you want before you want it. She will be so sensitive and caring that she will know your every mood and how to make you happy. Her beauty will rival that of the heavens and earth. She will unquestioningly care for your every need and desire. She will be the perfect companion for you,"
replied the heavenly voice. "Wow, she sounds great, Lord."
"She will be, but this is going to cost you, Adam."
"How much will this woman cost me, Lord?" Adam inquired.
"She'll cost you your right arm, your right leg, an eye, an ear, and your left testicle."
Adam pondered this for some time, with a look of deep thought and concern on his face. Finally, Adam raised his head and said to God, "Nah, what can I get for a rib?"